Hi, my name is Rachel Taylor. I am a certified functional diagnostic nutrition practitioner, and in this video, I am going to walk you through my GI map test results. This is a test I had done back in 2018 when I was experiencing a lot of debilitating and chronic gut issues, specifically extreme and pretty severe gut pain, stomach pain. So I spent a lot of evenings curled up on the couch. I was very sensitive and very reactive to food, even though I was following a very strict diet, was even gluten-free. I just didn't know day to day what foods I would react to. I experienced pretty extreme bloating. At some points, I looked like I was pregnant because I was so bloated. It was very uncomfortable, very distracting. I also, on top of that, experienced nausea here and there and insomnia, hormonal imbalances, skin issues. And this test really opened my eyes to what was going on underneath the surface. I worked with a practitioner. She ordered this test for me. The kit was sent directly to my home. I collected the sample at home. I shipped the kit with the sample to the lab. In about 2 to 3 weeks, I had the results back, and my practitioner walked me through these results and let me know what was showing up, what the markers meant, and how it related to my symptoms, and then gave me a step-by-step protocol as to exactly what I needed to do to help myself feel better and resolve the issues I had going on. So I personally find that this test really changed the game for me when it came to navigating my chronic health issues. And I'm hopeful that walking you through this video will just give you insight into my personal experience, my lab results, and then what I did from there. If you want to learn more about my entire health story, I have another video that walks you through my entire health story, start to finish. So let's jump into it. So this test is done by a lab called Diagnostic Solutions. It is a DNA-based stool test that looks at what is living in your gut. It uses qPCR technology that essentially just helps to measure bacteria, parasites, viruses, yeast, and markers that show how well you are digesting food, absorbing nutrients, and how your immune system is functioning. There are a few pros and cons to running a test like this, as with any functional test. Functional tests are used for informational and educational purposes. So you're not using a test like this to get a very specific diagnosis. However, it is going to give you a lot of really good information. So what I found some of the pros were of having a test like this done was that it's very accurate because it finds microbes that standard stool tests often miss. And it also shows whether a microbe is actually overgrowing or just present. And it gives really good insight into digestive function, inflammation, and immune function, which I find for my personal journey going through chronic health issues over a long period of time that this was incredibly helpful. And then some of the cons to a test like this is there can be false positive and false negatives. You do need someone who is trained in a test like this, but not just trained in understanding what the markers mean, but they have the skill set to correlate those markers to what you have going on. So I just wanted to go through that and let you know that as with any test, there is no perfect test. It is just a snapshot of what is going on inside your body at that moment in time. And it's a piece of information that you fit into the puzzle of your entire system, your body, your health issues, your health goals, and your health history. Okay, so on this first page, this is pathogens. Pathogens are microbes that are known to trigger infections or digestive illness. So you'll probably recognize some of these like E. coli and Salmonella. They can really irritate the gut lining. My results showed, as you can see here, that I had enteroinvasive E. coli. It was high. And this is a strain that's known to cause abdominal pain, fever, fatigue, vomiting, and diarrhea. So for me personally, I was experiencing a lot of chronic stomach pain. I was experiencing nausea, I was extremely tired, and there were a few episodes where I was vomiting and throwing up, and it was not related to a virus or an illness. I had such a compromised microbiome, and I had such a lowered immune system in my gut that no wonder something like this was running rampant in my gut and causing a lot of issues. And then if we scroll down, I don't have any parasitic pathogens present on this test or viral pathogens. So we're going to go to the next page. And here is H. pylori. Helicobacter pylori is the long name for it. I had H. pylori present, and I also had a virulence factor, VACA, present. So H. pylori is a bacteria that makes its home in the stomach. It burrows into the stomach lining. It can compromise the stomach lining. Certain strains actually reduce stomach acids and weaken the stomach lining, and it can cause a lot of irritation, stomach pain, and a whole host of other symptoms because it's going to impact your stomach's ability to properly break down and digest food. So I was high with a virulence factor, and that means that this strain was much more aggressive than just typical H. pylori. The impacts it had on my body specifically was gastritis. This can actually lead to ulcers. It can cause nausea, burning, impaired digestion. It can actually also impact thyroid function and nutrient absorption, which I found out later on that I had Hashimoto's, which is an autoimmune disease that impacts the thyroid. So there are a lot of connections with this one finding alone. And it can easily spread. It can be shared amongst partners, family members, pets. So I definitely was impacted by it, but thankfully the rest of my family was not. And so this really explains the upper stomach pain I had. I remember I would want to put pressure on my stomach. I would want to curl up. And I also experienced nausea after meals, random nausea, and bouts of vomiting as well. Okay, and then after H. pylori, you can see here we have normal bacterial flora. This is your protective gut microbes. These are the good bacteria that support digestion, protect your gut lining, and help to keep inflammation down throughout your body. My results showed high Clostridium. This bacteria is normal, but too much of it can disrupt digestion. It can impact the body and actually cause things like bloating, gas, and discomfort. Check, check, check for me. And it can impact just overall digestive capacity. Okay, so obviously that was a high, causing an imbalance within my normal flora. And then we have phylomicrobiota. So this is essentially the overall balance of your gut ecosystem. And so this shows whether your big categories of bacteria, the big guys that populate your entire mucosal barrier, your entire microbiome, are in balance. So my results showed I had good Bacteroidetes. My Firmicutes was slightly high, but my overall ratio of these two was pretty good. So I have a mild imbalance, and this can be common, especially given what I have going on within my gut. But this mild imbalance can contribute to things like bloating or sluggish digestion, which I had more of a tendency to be constipated, and then it would fluctuate randomly to the other extreme. So that explained a lot for me. So on this page, we have additional dysbiotic and overgrowth bacteria. So what these markers mean is these microbes normally live in the gut. Everyone has these to a certain extent, but they can become irritating and inflammatory when they overgrow. They often increase during stress or when the immune system is suppressed. And I can check both those boxes because at this time I was working a very stressful job. I was experiencing so much stress. Also, my health issues were causing additional stress. And then I also had a very low functioning immune system. I remember at this time I got sick almost every month, always would get a sore throat. I just seemed to catch everything that was going around and had a hard time recovering from illness as well. So on here, there are a few things to make note of. Bacillus, although it's not flagged high in the red, it is a little bit elevated. And so this is often seen after food poisoning. So I feel like this can probably connect a little bit to the E. coli I had going on. It can cause additional nausea, irritation when it comes to your digestion and food-related discomfort. And I was reacting to a lot of foods. Food was just very confusing and complicating for me at the time, and I didn't really enjoy eating food. And this probably contributed to that. And then I had Pseudomonas. These two, as you can see, both Pseudomonas are high. These are often found in water lines or pod coffee makers like Keurig coffee makers. I was at the time using a Keurig coffee maker every single day, drinking something from the Keurig every day. So that was really interesting to note. Pseudomonas can damage the gut lining and it can increase overall inflammation. So this most likely was contributing to my leaky gut symptoms that I had going on. And then another one that was trending a little bit high was Staphylococcus. This is a common microbe, but it can influence sinus issues or skin irritation. So I do wonder if this was impacting some of my allergies and just a tendency to get colds and stuff like that more easily. And so these overgrowths here showed that my immune system was exhausted, my gut lining was very irritated, which really matched my symptoms. Because remember, I had the bloating, I had fatigue, I had skin issues, and hormone irregularities. And then if we scroll down, there are additional things here like potential autoimmune triggers. What this section means is that there are certain microbes that can increase autoimmune activity if present. Mine were undetectable when I had this test done, which is good. And if we go down to fungi and yeast like Candida, you've probably heard of Candida. This will look at the organisms like these can cause bloating, fatigue, sugar cravings, skin problems, and mine were below detectable limits when I had this test done. And then we're going to go, there's viruses here like Epstein-Barr virus. Mine were below detectable limit. We'll go to the next page. So this is parasites, specifically protozoa and worms. So parasites are organisms that can steal nutrients, irritate the gut lining, disrupt digestion. And so here on my test, I had blastocystis. This was present, although not flagged high in the red, it was present. So what blasto does is it affects immune function, thyroid balance, skin, mood, and digestion. So another correlation between my symptoms and other things I was experiencing. This explained a lot. And then Chilomastix, this was high. This is not necessarily harmful by itself, but it does signal that I just had a really disrupted and compromised gut and digestive system. So I was being impacted and things were running rampant. And then we have down here flagged high, the Pentatrichomonas. This was also flagged high. This protozoa can really irritate the gut lining and it can cause that alternation that I was experiencing between constipation and diarrhea. And it can also affect nutrient absorption. And at the time, I was really struggling to maintain any good healthy weight. I was really underweight. I could have benefited from gaining a little bit. It was probably due to just not absorbing the nutrients from my food very well. And this, you can be exposed to this through animals outside. And I was working on a horse farm at the time, so I do wonder if I was exposed to a lot of these guys just through working with animals and being on a horse farm. And then worms here, none detected. And then we go down to my intestinal health markers. So first one here is elastase 1. This measures pancreatic enzymes that help to break down food. And I had pretty low levels. Ideally, you want it over 200. I was 175. When you have low levels, this can lead to more bloating, heaviness after meals, just feeling like nothing's really being digested or moving. and also poor nutrient breakdown. And so this was most likely a major cause of just my post-meal discomfort I was experiencing. And then underneath elastase 1 is a marker called steatocrit. Ideally, you want steatocrit to be at a 0 all the time. I was at a 6, and this measures how well my body was absorbing fat. So ideally, you don't want to have the presence of fat in your stool. Ideally, when you eat something with fat in it, your body breaks it down and digests it properly. And so this meant that I was having poor fat absorption, which can lead to even more bloating, more nausea, and low energy because I'm not getting the nutrients from that fat, and fat gives you energy. So this really explained my difficulty eating fattier meals and just being able to eat foods that I thought would make me feel good. And then if we go down to some GI markers, B-glucuronidase, this was normal for me in a decent range. And what this marker means is it shows how well my body is detoxifying hormones and toxins. And when it's elevated, it can cause additional hormonal symptoms. So my marker was good. And then underneath that is fecal occult blood. This is blood in the stool. Ideally, don't want to have the presence of this ever. So mine was clear, which is good because this can screen for just hidden GI bleeding. Underneath that is immune response. So secretory IgA. This is looking at my gut's immune shield, essentially. That first line of defense when it comes to my gut microbiome fighting off pathogens, illness, etc. I was extremely low. If you notice, the range is 510 to 2010. I was 129. Extremely low levels. This meant I was burnt out. My immune system was burnt out. I had extremely poor resilience, and this made it easier for infections, as you saw on the other markers in this test. Makes it easier for infections like that to take over my system. So this really explained why I was reacting to food and reacting to microbes and just feeling like my gut was really disrupted. Underneath secretory IgA is anti-gliadin IgA. This marker looks at gluten sensitivity. This is not going to confirm a gluten allergy, but this is just looking at if my body is having a sensitivity to the gluten protein. And so mine was normal. However, when my practitioner went over these results with me, she said that due to my secretory IgA being so low, my immune system, that this is most likely a false low. It's probably higher if we retested at some point, but this is most likely higher. And this is because my IgA was suppressed. And so most likely I was reacting to gluten, even though this was a fairly low number. I was gluten-free. I really needed to probably go even more strict just because I had such severe leaky gut that anything that was hard to digest was probably causing a reaction in my body. And then the final marker here is calprotectin. I had a 1. This is good. This screens for inflammation in the gut lining. My number was low. This likely meant that what I was doing at the time, so the dietary measures I was taking, the lifestyle measures I was taking, some of the supplements I was taking at the time were probably helping to keep that inflammation down, even while I had these other root issues going on. So this is confirmation for me that lifestyle can help you even when you're still going through some difficult health issues. And that is the walkthrough of my GI map test results. So what this revealed for me and the symptoms I had going on at the time was my stomach pain most likely came from the E. coli and the H. pylori. My bloating most likely came from the low enzymes, the parasites, and the overgrowth of bacteria. My fatigue was most likely related to that immune exhaustion I was experiencing. And my skin and hormone struggles probably came from the gut irritation and the imbalances and nutrient deficiencies I was experiencing because I was not properly absorbing my food. And so this test really took out a lot of guessing for me. I remember when the practitioner I worked with walked through these results with me, I told my husband after the call with her that I was just so relieved that this wasn't all in my head, that there was an actual reason for why I felt the way I felt. This gave me so much clarity I have been searching for years. And so after I went over these results, I was then given a custom protocol that covered lifestyle, diet, supplementation, stress management, and I implemented that in a very disciplined way for the next 6 months. And the results are night and day. I felt so much better. And to this day, I have never experienced again the extreme stomach pain and bloating that I did back in 2018. If you found this video educational and helpful, please comment below, like it, subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you in the next one.